This morning, I'm just talking about building math, and my grant, you can go ahead and switch it, is Lego Math. It was with the Mindstorm and the We Do. Are you familiar with that at all? Anybody? No? Yes? Some people? Okay. The reason that I chose it was I believed that, I teach fifth grade math, I should say that, and I'm not the most favorite teacher in fifth grade, probably. But I wanted to engage my students with a little more fun activities so that they could learn some coding and talk about engineering. And I was able to do that with small groups. We did a lot of hands-on exploring occupations. We discussed the engineering and the coding, and that led to some other project-based learning that we're getting ready to get into after testing. So we're going to do some tiny house with grid paper and go forth. You can go ahead. I ended up at the beginning because I get an hour for class, so I always felt like I was behind in math, or I'm always catching up on something. So I wanted to see how this worked before I did it, because I'm not up with the coding and all of that. They taught me. So I let our TD teacher begin using it. She actually took them to her classroom, with my fifth graders, and she worked with them to see how they did in those small groups first. And they knew so much more than she did, and she learned from it, and then we brought it back into my classroom. And what I ended up purchasing was the Mindstorm set, which was with coding and robotics. And then I also had the We Do set, which was, I have 5 sets that are the same, and students could sit together and they could code, and once they got finished, they were able to race each other in the hallway. They were able to measure how far one went. We did a lot of that kind of thing. But the engagement, the students are drawn to the challenge because it's interesting and captures the imagination, the exploration. On the 5 E's are where the students start to explore math, science, and engineering principles through activities where they encounter problems or ask questions, and they didn't have to ask me a lot of questions. We have one student that I think, is it in Martin County that he went, Amanda? He knew how to code the Mindstorm and the robotics, so he showed everybody else, and I sat back and watched because I learned a lot that day. And the elaboration, students apply what they've learned to the engineering design challenge, and that's what we're going forth next, is building the tiny homes on paper and looking at area and looking at scale. The evaluation, students reflect on what they've learned. Like I said, I think I should have done that part because I learned more than they did. They were coding, and I've got it on my phone. Did I bring my phone up? I was going to pass it around and let you watch the video because I couldn't embed it into, I had trouble embedding it. But they were able to code it and move it, if you want to pass it around and watch. But they had the best day, and I think I had parents texting me and messaging me and telling me how much fun they had, and they could tell them all about the coding and why it was important. But that was the project. I learned a lot from it. They learned a lot from it, and they want to know when we can do that again. So I think I pulled some pictures up. I don't know what that was, but there it is. But they were totally engaged, and at the same time we were doing that, we also had a project going on with eggs, and we had them in the incubator, and they were hatching. So at that time, they were engrossed with all kinds of stuff going on. But I enjoyed it. I learned a lot from it. They learned a lot from it, and we're going to do some more later before school, before we let out. Any questions? I'm shorting to the point. Anybody? Anybody had any? Have you ever seen them? The robotics? Did the phone go around? I mean, they coded it on their own, and they were able, you can Bluetooth it, and they were able to manipulate it and take videos. I mean, it was crazy. It was wonderful. So, anybody? No? Good? All right. I'm good. Thank you.